All right, welcome to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today is Monday, January 28th. How you feeling? How you doing? How's the weather where you're at? It's nice here today in New York. It was like 45 degrees yesterday. Whenever it's like super cold, like 7 degrees, and then it's like 45 the next day, you're like, God, it's nice out today. I'm out in a hoodie. This is hoodie weather. 45 in LA, I'd be like, this sucks. But in New York, you're like, oh, God, what a nice day. Anyway, I hope you guys had a great weekend. I'm just out here working my ass off. Been at the Comedy Cellar all weekend, doing all kinds of stand-up, trying to get funny, trying to get better. Great guest today. Speaking of somebody funny, this guy is one of my favorite comedians and a great friend. Mr. Roy Wood Jr. is my guest today. And as I promised, 2019 going to be a lot more comedy here on the podcast because I think it's time to draw in some of the comedy fans so we don't just box ourselves in here. Keep getting emails. You should have this guitar player on or that guitar. It's not a guitar player podcast. There's plenty of those out there. This is a lifestyle, a passion project. As loony as that sounds, I like having people on that inspire me in life, and Roy Wood Jr. is one of them. This man is a master comedian. And it is amazing to watch him work each night. I get to go on before him or after him. We cross paths in the night, in between shows, out there grinding in New York City. Roy Wood Jr. is an absolute joke ninja. You know him from The Daily Show. And we sit down and talk all about how he got that job at The Daily Show and what his work schedule's like. We also talk about his time at Last Comic Standing and what it was like to live tweet those shows. Great comic. And he has a special right now that just came out last Friday night on Comedy Central. And you can go watch that on the Comedy Central app or maybe online on their website. Somewhere you got to find Roy Wood Jr.'s work because it is definitely going to bring smiles and laughs to your face. Let's see. I want to give a shout out. I'm getting ready to try to build a podcast studio here, and I want to give a shout out to Tim Mitchell, who's going to donate some gear to help me get there, which is fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Tim Mitchell. That's going to be cool. And I also want to thank, for real, from the bottom of my heart, all of you out there who have been donating to Patreon. This show is a lot of work. I bust my ass to do it. So any donations is absolutely amazing from you people. Patreon.com/Dean Delray. Over the weekend, one of the best records I've heard in years came out. And I have not stopped listening to this record. And I have not done this since Marcus King's last record came out. But the brand new Rival Sons came out on Friday, Feral Roots. And this thing is a masterpiece. I'm going to tell you, it's one of those records. It's like Octung Baby U2 to me. The more you listen to it, the more you need it. It's like having a bad dope problem. You're just going to constantly have this record on. Put it on. At first you might be like, yeah, pretty good. And next thing you know, you're going to be losing your mind like, oh my God, this is a record. Feral Roots. I texted Jay Buchanan, the singer, and I said, hey, you made a masterpiece. You and your band have gone all out. I can't even tell you what my favorite songs are because it keeps changing over the weekend. Like at first, Look Away was just the tune. I was like, this is the tune of the record. And then I got into Too Bad, track 6. I was like, God, this song is blowing my mind. And then Imperial Joy, and it just goes on and on. I just find a new favorite, and that's how you know you have a great, great record under your belt, is as you go on and on. I remember it happened to me with Master of Puppets. I was like, oh, yeah, Battery's the tune. And then it was like... You get way into the record and it just unravels. It's like a tree you grow, and as it gets bigger and bigger, these roots just come out and you just fall in love. I don't know, that's some hippie shit, but that's how I feel about this record. Congrats, Rival Sons, and everybody. Tell your friends about it. Some upcoming shows, some incredible shows coming up. Atlantic City just added February 8th with Bill Burr at the Borgata. That's going to be great. Houston, March 7, 8, and 9. Joey Diaz and I are coming to the Houston Improv. April 11th through the 14th, I will be headlining the Comedy Castle in Detroit. April 29th through May 5th, I return to Las Vegas Comedy Cellar. That's going to be rocking. June 21st, 22, and 23, I return headlining at the La Jolla Comedy Store. So there, get your tickets. Go to DeanDelRay.com and please buy your tickets in advance. Also, thanks to everybody that bought the shirts. I can see on Instagram and Twitter, you guys have been getting them in your mailboxes. Take a picture with your shirt on, your Delraiser Grateful Dean shirt, and I'll post it in the Instagram. And all of you people that said, oh, can I get a shirt? I missed the pre-sale. You slept. I had the pre-sale for 2 months. There was no excuse. That is 61 days I did a pre-sale. And people were like, oh, can I get one now? No. Nope. That's how it goes. All right, I love you guys. Thank you for everything. Let's give a shout out to the Patreoners, Johnny, just Johnny, and Doug Fletcher, and Daniel Hutner. Those are the brand new Patreoners this week. Thank you so much. Here's our guest today, Mr. Roy Wood Jr. All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today we have a fantastic comedian, a good friend of mine, Mr. Roy Wood Jr. How are you, buddy?
I'm okay, man.
You got a fucking special coming out this week.
Yeah, man. No One Loves You. Friday night on Comedy Central, January 25th. Or if you're listening to this after that, just go buy that shit, man. You got the money.
You got the money. Where do they buy it? Like, can you buy an old school DVD?
No, that's the one thing Comedy Central does not fuck with anymore. They're not mailing them out, which is crazy because my aunt still hasn't seen my first special.
Oh.
She's a 65-year-old black woman. She don't fuck with streaming. Trying to get her to understand the Comedy Central app is like, no, it's just not going to happen in the least.
She's like, is that thing on Betamax? Betamax.
Yeah.
Man, it's good to see you, dude. We're here in New York City, and I've been, over the last year, I'd say, weaving in and out of clubs, passing you, and you passing me in the night.
Yeah,
and we're out there just fucking working, and it was great to watch your process because I absolutely love a lot of the stuff I've seen you work on in the last year, and I was like, God, I gotta have Roy Wood on because you're like one of my favorites out here.
Man, thank you, brother. There's days where, I don't know what your process is creatively when you're working on the material, but I'm very much high tide, low tide. Like there's months, like 2 or 3 months in a row where it's just ideas coming in and I can't keep up with them. It's just the floodgates open, the creative floodgates open, and then they close off, and I don't know when it's going to open again. So I just start mining all of the material that I gathered during the harvest season and then start putting that stuff on stage. And then, You go home and watch the tapes and review the audio and do punch-ups. And then one day the floodgates open again. And it's been wash, rinse, repeat for 20 years for me.
I'm exactly the same way, where it just kind of comes out of nowhere. I don't know when it's coming. I could be walking down the street or on a plane or just laying in bed, and then a bunch of stuff comes. I jot down notes, and then later on I'll dig through them like, oh yeah, this, and I'll start it up.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I regret about my Twitter, is that I didn't save all of my tweets. Like, they continue a file. I just didn't save the file. I chopped off like everything but the last 2 years of my Twitter. Just chopped it all off. Just rather than go through it and figure out if there's something that, if not now, then later could be the new thing that gets you in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck it. Just chop it all. Because, I started going through all my old tweets, and then what I realized is that there's nothing I've said 10 years ago that I still agree with, whether it's edgy or not. Like, I also said that 24 is a great television show that will be on forever. I was wrong.
Well, I look at Twitter, and I think it should be exact to how like old people get like passes. If you're on Twitter for more than 7 years, you get a pass because we didn't think it was going to be around. I thought it was going to be one of those apps that just burns up, and you didn't really know what you were doing. And I never locked my phone, so I'd go to the bathroom. My buddies would put shit on there. Who knows what's on there?
You know what I would love to do? Since we going through old tweets to see who said what, let's go through these old civil rights sit-in photos and do some facial recognition on some of these old white men that were hanging out pouring hot coffee on black people who wanted rights. Let's see them do the "it was a different time" dance. Everybody was doing it, man. I'm sorry. God, I hope facial recognition gets better.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Now, did that all come from The Daily Show with Trevor and all that? How they went on that hunt for him?
Yeah, because Trevor got announced as Daily Show host, and then I think it was 6 weeks until air, and then it was a joke. It was a Nazi joke he made. It was something like that. It was something about Germans, and I don't remember. It's somewhere on the internet, but whatever it was, he got into a little bit of trouble about it. And then when they hired me, the first thing I did before the announcement even went public, I was like, man, because it doesn't matter what the spirit of the joke and the tone. If someone's mad and they're offended, you know what? Let's just take it all down. And that way you can focus more on who I am now, and then use that as a barometer to really assess someone's character. Because I think the thing that sucks about our society, which is why the Twitter stuff doesn't even get me mad. Like, people get upset, like, oh, how could you get mad about something I said? That's what we do. That's what America is built on. America is built on judging you on who you were, not who you are. No one cares about who you are.
Yeah,
they only want to know who you were.
Not at all. It's all Kevin Hart shit. You know?
Yeah, first thing you do when you go to a job, where's your resume, motherfucker? Where you been? Who you know? Try to get a credit card. They want your credit history. Like, even to fuck another person, just to have sex, they want to, well, tell me about your ex and tell me about all of your previous relationships. It's all about assessing who you were and then judging you. Oh, you're a felon? All right. Well, please explain in these 3 little bitty sentence squares the terms, which is so crazy considering that if you are convicted of a crime that you could summarize in 3 sentences on a job app, it's not a crime worth mentioning. But if you do attach extra paper, you're probably not getting the job anyway.
Yeah.
They always say,
can you imagine that?
Yeah, please explain your felony. Feel free to attach extra. Oh, yeah, I'm surely getting the job now. I just gave you a full fucking federal indictment.
Feel free to attach that.
Yeah. As you can see from the attached indictment, the feds had nothing on me.
That's so crazy. It's just a crazy world, and you've been in comedy way longer than me, but no way did I have any thought 9 years ago when I started comedy that what was going to happen in the last couple years happens. Oh,
of course not. And I have. And I think I was definitely in a more volatile space comedically because I worked in morning radio. In morning radio, you think Twitter, you think the old tweets you're finding on people are bad. You wish you could dig in the crates and find audio from a lot of morning shows from I'd say 93 till Janet Jackson's Breast. When was the Breast? 02, 03, somewhere in there? That was the Janet titty. Like, that's when radio started. Like, all right, listen, we got to have a meeting about some of the stuff we're saying and doing. We've got to look inside ourselves. Like, that was when things really changed. So, morning radio gave me this sense that there was an even wider berth of decency, when in actuality it was much more narrow, and it should have been narrow the whole time.
You started in Alabama, and you kind of started on radio, which is interesting.
Kind of same time, kind of like hopscotching between the two. Because I thought radio was going to help my stand-up, but as I matured as a comic, the type of jokes that work on radio aren't the types of jokes I do on stage. So it just didn't fit my skill set. It was cool, I mean, in terms of learning how to write jokes every day, but nah, it didn't really help.
Yeah, I mean, they still seem to be in that cheesy format of like everybody talks about, that morning zoo crazy.
Hey, Tammy, what's going on? Well, now, guys, don't you do that, guys.
Oh, man.
You know why? Because radio is still run by old men. The consultants and the people that are in charge of making most of the creative decisions are old school radio guys who have a "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" ideology, which is why the only good radio shows that work are the ones that operate outside the box and do something that's a little creatively different. For all the praise that the Breakfast Club gets, they're not on in nearly as many markets as, say, Steve Harvey or Bob and Tom or... what's another one? Is it Valentine in the morning? Is Valentine still syndicated? I'm not sure. But their use of the internet, the Breakfast Club, their use of the internet and airing long-form interviews and asking more poignant questions boosts their profile way more than it ever did in broadcast. And now everyone knows about them, not because of what they did terrestrially, but because of what they did online. I had bosses in my old radio days who pushed back against internet. The internet was just a place you went to send a letter to someone and maybe try to, get some sex off Craigslist. Like, it was never seen as a viable media avenue.
That's hilarious, right?
You need people that have that type of foresight and are willing to take the chances on the show for it to grow. Otherwise, you just have everybody doing the same old. And like 9 times out of 10, when you hear a story about, did you hear what so-and-so said on the radio? It's the Breakfast Club. Because most other morning shows aren't allowed to ask you more than 2 questions because it's time to go to a commercial break, because we have to hurry up and play more music, because we did a media study that says that the listeners want more music. And so it's backwards thinking to me in the long run. And that was part of the problem, is that when you look at my comedy, I'm trying to dig deeper on the issue, and radio is about pop, pop, pop. It's about jabs. And, I don't have enough jabs in my comedy for it to work, for that style to complement what I was doing on stage.
Was your style always what it is right now, or did you start as like somebody that you looked up to? Were you a different kind of a cadence and everything?
Bitch. My first year of comedy was a grotesque impersonation of Martin Lawrence meets Doug Stanhope.
Wow, what a crazy combo.
That is just...
I would love to see that.
No, I will not show you those videos. There was that. So I went through my Martin Lawrence facial expressiveness phase, where I thought that I could just get by on facial expressions and body language and no content. I was wrong. No, I was not nearly what I am now. Like, comedically, I would say that, I like to talk about issues, but I like to approach the issues from an angle no one might have considered. I'm not here to figure out right and wrong, or your side is stupid, your side is right. It's more, all right, I heard those 2 sides. Have you thought about this side? Like, that's always been my approach. But when I also started at 19. So what the fuck am I talking about at 19? Other than college roommates eating my food while I'm at work.
Yeah.
And
single.
The book buyback program. I had a killer joke about book buyback. I can't do it now as a 40-year-old. I ought to sell it to one of these young college comics. $1,000 a minute. Pay up.
$1,000 a minute. Is that what it goes for?
I've heard that's the going rate when a lot of comics buy material from other comics. I've heard that.
$1,000 a minute.
Yeah,
I never heard the
1,000 a
amount.
minute. Yeah.
It's always like you hear such and such has tons of writers.
Some people, but I don't know if that's one writer or a group of writers. It's different. But if it's just like one person going, "Hey, I like that joke. Can I have it?" Yeah, and then they'll time out the joke, and then pay you based on the total runtime of the joke. The joke's a minute 30, you get $1,500.
Wow, that's a wild. I love that. It's almost like tattooers. It's like now I heard it's up to like $250 an hour. I'm like, holy smokes, those guys are making some money. But you got to write a lot of bits and hope that they take one or two.
Correct. But that's for people that travel with a guy and they just. It's understood that the opener is performing material that the headliner can then cherry pick to move on to their hour. You're basically the person incubating it. You're almost like a surrogate. You're like a joke surrogate where you take the joke and nurture it until it's ready to be birthed in its final form.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to its real father.
Oh, man, that's a wild thought. I never really thought about that thing. And to me, the whole part of comedy is finding the gold. And then it happens. So that I couldn't imagine someone just handing me the gold. It was just kind of like I'd be like, I don't even.
Yeah,
I feel no thrill in this.
It's just about why are you here? What are you here to accomplish as a comedian? And I think there's guys that the purists for sure don't want writers, and there are other people that I guess I get it. I don't know. Maybe you're too fucking busy. You don't have time for a writer. Or you do it and then you send it to a buddy for punch up and you take punch ups from people. I don't know, man. I'm very hesitant now. I had a run in with Russell Simmons 15 years ago, and it completely changed my perspective on all right, if that's how you choose to do it, fine. Because at the end of the day, I think Joe Rogan has shown us that the audience doesn't give a fuck. Joe Rogan presented the most ironclad open and shut case on why Carlos Mencia should never be fucked with again. I guarantee you if I go on the computer right now, we will see Carlos Mencia still touring and some of those shows will still be sold out because people love him. So the purist in me has no respect for a joke thief, and admitted joke thief. But what am I going to do to stop people from going to see him? So if you want to hire writers, and that's how you run your machine, go make your fucking money. Just don't steal material. I respect that more than a joke thief. I saw Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons did our morning show. This is how long ago this was. It was like 2002, 03 or some shit. It was the first year. It was like the first or second year of Fat Farm. And then he had also come out with the Rush card. He was in town promoting. He was going to nigga cities. Birmingham's 80% black, by the way, if you don't know the demographic.
And that's where you're from.
Correct. Yeah. So he's going around all these black cities selling this prepaid credit card. Build your credit up, motherfuckers. I'm Russell Simmons, whatever. He comes in the room to do the interview. This motherfucker never looks up at us the entire time he's in the room until we're on the air. Like, he comes in the room, he's got a sidekick. That's how long this was. He had a sidekick in one hand, he had a Blackberry in the other, and he's just clacking away at this shit. The moment we go on the air, head up, on, hey guys, how you doing? Russell Simmons. Oh, I love Birmingham. How you been? What part of Birmingham? Like, amazing. 95.7, we'll be right back with more Russell Simmons. And so we do the interview. He thanks us and he leaves. And we proceed to go on the air after he leaves and talk shit about him and his body language and how could you motherfucker. And fast forward, I don't know, 10, 12 years later, I'm in a radio station and it's just one of those days where there's just a lot of shit going on. I'm in the middle of trying to put out 2 or 3 different fires between an agent and a booker. I'm trying to set up another gig. Like, there's just a lot happening.
Yeah.
That can't wait. Yes, this interview is important, but this is also part of my career. And it was in that fucking moment I understood with Russell Simmons. I got it. And, and I apologized to the people in the room. And it was the only thing I did different. I said, listen, normally I'm da-da-da-da-da, but today I have to. And I explained to them what the situation was. and then proceeded between breaks to sit on my laptop wide open in front of other people. And but it had to be at that moment. I didn't have any choice, man. And that's when I understood the Russell Simmons shit. Like, oh, okay, he was just busy. He's just making money. That fucking money don't stop, man.
It's a 24/7 gig. This comedy.
Yeah, imagine being a fucking mogul like him and having a fucking run clothing and a record label. I'm just a dude telling jokes. So there's just a lot to do, and I think that's probably the biggest. I don't know if hindrance is the word, but what probably keeps me from enjoying life is the people that mean the most to me don't always understand why I'm choosing whatever I chose to do or not do in that week. Because your family never understand. Like family, I don't think they ever really get the pressure that comes the further along you get in this. And they think it's still open mic night, come kick it type stuff. You know, I did a set a couple of months ago, and I had a buddy came out to the show, and he was figuring, all right, yeah. And then after the show, drinks, I found a bar, and I'm like, whoa, man, this is fucking. I can't stay out till 2 a.m. anymore. I've got 2 scripts that I have to fucking give notes on, and I have to do punch up on this other thing, and like, it's legit. Like, and it's
serious work.
It's serious work. And if I don't do this today, here's what my next 3 days look like. And here are the windows where I can do this or I can do it today. You know what I mean? But today, it's just you didn't want to go drinking.
I can relate to that so much. It's just kind of like people don't understand that comedy, it's just not the 1 hour or 30 minutes or 15-minute set of that night. That's just one of the 1,000 things we have to do.
And then when I do concede and decide to go out and hang, my mind's on work, man. So half the time I'm not even emotionally present. So which would you prefer? You know, it's always a tough one to have to choose between, you know, and then people will hit you with the, well, it's, how can I put it? Like, it's the family, the friends over the work, it's just work, and it just, but if it fulfills you, if it emotionally makes you feel whole, is it just work?
It's not work at all.
Those are the words of people.
Pure passion.
Yeah, and I just feel like that, you know, and I don't know, motherfuckers might be right. I might wake up at 65 and wish that I'd have went out drinking with my friend, but all you have is the decisions with the information you have right now. Because who's to say that if the career didn't go the way it goes, then I'm 65 wondering if I'd have fucking done that thing and met that person and went to that audition.
Yeah.
Would this have been different, you know? So, you know, I just make every decision with confidence and don't second guess it. So the threat of living with regret doesn't scare me. And I think that's what a lot of people are fucking scared of. A lot of people in this world are scared of living with the reality of having made a wrong decision instead of just making a decision boldly. And you just live with it. It just is what it is, you know? Like that part of comedy I haven't quite figured out yet, because I'm just now at a point where I'm having to realistically create a work-life balance. You know, I'm 40. I've been doing this since I was 19, and like now I have a 2.5-year-old, damn near 3-year-old. So it's a different situation. It's a different thing to navigate now, which is a little weird.
Let me ask you something. You've been doing comedy, what is that, 21 years?
Yeah, right at about 21 in March.
You ever go through, and I always like to ask seasoned comedians this, you ever go through periods where you just feel lost, where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Like even at this point in your career?
Yeah, even now I feel lost. And now it's even, the penalties are harder for fucking up, you know? It's like going, like it's, entertainment is climbing a mountain, right? And then the higher you get to the top, now you're dealing with snow and wind and ice and shit you can slip off and fall to your death. There's dead bodies of people who didn't quite make it all the way to the top.
Yeah.
You gotta walk
frozen
past
souls.
Yeah. And so now if you'd fallen and stumbled in your career in the foothills of this mountain, it wouldn't have killed you. But if you fall here, it's fucking over. You slip up here, it's fucking Stallone and Cliffhanger. You know, it's whatever. I don't know. What was it Josh Brolin? One of those Mount Everest movies that where motherfuckers avalanche comes down the side. Like it's that. And that's only if you know where you're going. If there's a rope you have to hold on to. Now imagine that same situation where you've gotten up there to the mountain and somehow you've got turned around and you're not sure which way what am I doing? Was this what I wanted? Did I want a half hour special? Did I want to I thought I wanted to be in a sitcom, but I don't know if I want to be in what is this internet shit? What should I try the internet? That's a whole nother mountain. The internet mountain's over there. That means I gotta go down this mountain and go over and go up that mountain. That's 2 mountains. Oh my God. Like it's that feeling of just being adrift. I felt like that in LA, bro. I was in LA.
That's when I first met you.
Yeah.
I think I met you on your second time in LA because you go to LA for a while and then you move back and then you come back and we're playing softball together at the Comedy Store, and that's when I first meet you. And I guess that's when like Sullivan and Sons and stuff starts happening.
Correct. That's why I'd moved back. So I was in LA for like 5 or 6 years, and then I got an offer to host the morning show in Birmingham. So I went back home and hosted the morning show with the understanding that I would grow it into syndication and use the syndication as leverage to book myself in multiple comedy cities or whatever.
That's the goal of radio.
Correct.
To be able to fill rooms.
Correct. That's the only purpose as a comedian, to do radio. I have no desires. I love my hometown, but I think what we're doing in Birmingham could be bigger than local. I booked the radio show, and then Steve Byrne calls literally 2 months after we go on. 2 months after my show launched, Steve Byrne calls and goes, "Yo, man, we're doing a sitcom for TBS. I'd love for you to audition." And I go and audition, and I fucking book it. I booked the fucking show. So now I'm splitting time between Birmingham and LA. And when I'm in LA taping the sitcom, I'm doing the Birmingham show on a satellite line. So I'm up at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, brutal.
Burbank, to make sure that everything's straight back in Birmingham. You know, just the whole nine. And then the second year, radio, the sitcom Sullivan and Son got picked up for a second season, and a radio station fired me because they didn't want someone who was splitting time. And I go, well, that's the whole fucking point of people
promoting. We're making both things bigger.
There you go. And they never
feed each other. I never understood that.
It's a bunch of old men who don't understand how the fucking media works now. That's what most radio is. So it is what it is, man. But yeah, so when I got back to LA, Sullivan and Son gets canceled. And I'm doing stuff on ESPN, and I'm working the road, but I'm not getting any real auditions. I'm not getting what I consider to be any real traction in LA. And it's one of those moments where you go, well, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I here? And that's when I made the decision that I was going to move to New York. I was like, well, if I'm going to sit here and not fucking book TV shows, I should at least be getting better as a comedian. And also, New York is closer to where most of my money is. I literally looked at a calendar. 80% of my road work is east of Dallas. So why the fuck am I going to keep living in LA and paying more to fly and be in the air longer and deal with it? No, go to New York. Go to Atlanta. Go just get the fuck out of LA. And as soon as I made that decision, that's when the Daily Show audition came up. And
that's incredible, right?
Yeah.
Then you land that, and that's like a game changer, I think, for you.
And so part of that, that came from the homie Neil Brennan. So in LA, I couldn't get on. At the time, I couldn't get on at the Comedy Store. The booker at the time was kind of giving me the run around, and it was kind of on some, just keep swinging by, keep stopping by, doing sets, and eventually we'll give you. I understand the process at the store, but I was also working 4 to 5 days a week on the road. So when I'm back in town, I need for sure opportunities on stage. So I had Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays free in LA. And I would try to dick around at the store on a Monday night or a Tuesday night. And you have to stay there 3 hours. And in my head, I'm doing the math on what other stage time I'm missing. And so I started I'd already been doing it, but then I focused more on just working on new material. And Neil Brennan had this new jokes night. And I kept working Neil's room.
I love that show.
And so Trevor Noah at some point hits up Neil. Yo, do you know any fucking black people that could fucking audition? And I was one of the names that Neil gave Trevor. And that's how it came about. And I just think stuff like that comes from just working the craft and just constantly getting on stage. I don't think Neil Brennan would even make that recommendation had he not seen me putting in work and constantly trying to write and constantly trying to...
Yeah, that comes down to the comedic respect, having other comics respect your work and your work ethic and everything. And that's where that kind of recommendations come later on. Sometimes people will even recommend you and you don't even know where it came from.
Yep.
And years later, you'll be like, oh, yeah, such and such was the one that called us on you. And like, fuck, I owe that guy big time.
Yeah.
You know?
You never even knew, man.
I always look at that like Burr and Marin and Joey Diaz and Kevin Christie, all these guys. I'm just like, God, these guys are gods to me, you know, who just recommended me because you need to be recommended. You need to vouch because other people have that going on for them who have big agents and managers. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have anybody in your corner, you could just be out there in a fucking space.
Yeah, so I was real thankful for that, from Neil, because that wasn't something he had to do, and I try to do the same thing. Granted, I don't have as many opportunities to pass on to other comics, but every now and then, someone that's running a show will hit me. Oh, do you know a writer? We're looking for a person who can do this type of thing, and when I'm on the road, I try to take, younger, newer comics that haven't had an opportunity to get a lot of road work, or it's a room that I think they would do well in. So come open for me first, and then I'm sure they'll like you and bring you back and headline you and stuff like that. Like, that's what I really try. I really try to bring openers who should be headlining so that the clubs can see that and also see what it feels like to book a solid goddamn show, man. Yeah,
there's nothing better than a headliner bringing you out. What you learn from that is unbelievable.
And it's something I've always gone back and forth about doing because, for me to bring a comedian
cost you money.
It costs me, and it also is taking a weekend away from a comic in that region. And I used to be that comic for nine years. I worked the South and the Midwest, and once a month you'd lose a date because some headliner at the last minute decided to bring their own guy. And the club, there's nothing the club could do. You're fucked. And so you're only making $800 a month, and $400 gets chopped off. Like, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and it makes you hate the comedian and all of that stuff. I've been fired before from black comics who, like black headliners who didn't want black openers and shit like that. So, like, it's a lot of that weird. It's a lot of weird shit like that. But then what I also have to weigh it against is the fact that the comedy clubs, there's a lot of comedy clubs that do not pay attention to who they're booking the feature with.
That's the worst.
And so stylistically, like, the only way I can explain it is music. You wouldn't have a jazz musician opening up for Migos.
Yeah. You
wouldn't have an opera singer opening up for Jay-Z. You wouldn't have Jay-Z opening up for Bacharach. Like, you have to stack the show properly. And most clubs don't. It's just whoever the fuck responds to the email first. So I get there, and it's a feature that's funny, but the juxtaposition doesn't work. And it's a build. It's a meal. And you have to respect that you're presenting the audience a 3-course meal. And sushi don't go with nachos. They're both delicious.
Yeah.
They're both delicious in their own right. But they should not be on the same plate together.
And those nachos might be too dirty.
Yeah.
those nachos might be too dirty to start off with.
I call the club and go, yo, I'm nachos, and I'm bringing my nigga salsa. That's how it should go. So, it's something I've always gone back and forth against. But I feel like if it's a solid show top to bottom, The audience enjoys me even more because you enjoyed the opener, which means you enjoyed the comedy experience more, which means you're more likely to come back to this comedy club. So you can be mad, but on a deeper subliminal level, I'm helping the recidivism of customers in your fucking room by bringing someone that I think is funnier than the people you're too lazy to fucking even give a fuck. I don't do that in every market, though, because there's some markets where they do care and they do build.
Oh, yeah, like Denver Comedy Works.
Oh, bro.
Great. They got a great...
I'll never bring an opener. I wouldn't even disrespect Wendy by saying, hey, I don't trust you, even though you've cultivated this market for 25 years. Like, I wouldn't dare. Minneapolis is another great market where they really
Acme?
work. Yeah, where they really...
I've been dying to do Acme.
Oh, dude, I'll have to hit up Lewis. Lewis!
Yeah. You hear that, Lewis?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah, I'll send him a text or some shit for you.
I recently saw a sketch that was fantastic, and it was the one Mexico's going to pay for this. I was laughing. Like for me,
Mexican Express card.
Yeah, it's hard for me to laugh at sketches after Chappelle and Key and Peele. I just don't have, because they were so great, these shows. I just don't have it. When somebody shows me a sketch, I'm like, I look at it stone cold face, and I'm like, yeah. It's so hard to write a great sketch. Don't you believe that? So when I saw that one, it was genius. Like, hey, you got to pay for that. Oh, it's already paid for.
Yeah.
Mexico paid for it.
Yeah,
Mexico's going to pay for it.
Yeah, it's a Daily Show sketch, and the premise of it being that if Mexico's paying for the wall, then Mexico's paying for everything. So here's a credit card that Mexico will pay the bill for. So you just go in stores and swipe it. With the joke being the card is always declined, but you just go, no, Mexico's got it. Trust me, I'm out of here.
It was great.
That's probably been the biggest fingerprint that I think the Trevor Noah era Daily Show has been the implementation of sketch as part of the normal style of how we disseminate political satire on the show. Jon Stewart had his style, and I think Trevor, with him being younger, I think there's just definitely him just being a little fresher and he consumes information differently. So why wouldn't he deliver it differently? The same way the Daily Show has made a huge push on the digital side for the last 3 years by doing because a lot of sketches and shit like that we used to just do strictly for the web, and then some of them started getting good, and they were like, man, we'll put that on the show.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's put that one on the show. You know what? I got an idea for a sketch for the show. So it stopped being pitched strictly for online. But, the show has an Emmy for all of its digital expansion stuff. And I think the sketches are a very important part of how we can convey a point now. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things about being on the show. The days are long when you shoot a sketch, but the shit's funny, so it's worth it.
Take me through a day there of work, since I've never really been behind the scenes of like a Daily Show. But what makes me really, really respect you is I know that that's some serious hard work. And I've seen tons of people that once they get a gig like this, tap out, and I don't see them in the clubs anymore until that job's gone, like 3 years later, and all of a sudden here they try to come back in.
Hey guys, I'm back. What's going on?
But you are very, very much out every night. So let's run a little bit through your schedule. You've got a child.
Yeah.
You're married. And you only have so many hours in the day. What time do you got to be at the Daily Show?
So morning meetings at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
My son has to be to school at 8:30. So I'll explain that later. But the basic morning, I'm up. Well, as a parent, you move when your kids move. So he's up at 7. So fuck it, I'm up at 7.
And sometimes you're home at like 2, 3, right?
Midnight. Sometimes 2, 3 in the morning. Yeah. So now on those days, then my girl would get up with him, and I'll sleep until 9:30.
No, thank God.
And then go to work.
Right.
But for the most part, I try to get up and deal with my son so that my girl can sleep, because when I'm on the road, she's got him all fucking day. So I'm trying to, it's a balance. Yeah. So for the most part, I'm up, I feed him, read, feed them, read them, read something to him, read a book, feed him, read him, and then get his ass to school. And then I come back home, usually about 9. Sometimes I might sleep an hour. Or that's kind of my email, set up my daytime or whatever. And then at work, that's where it becomes one big fat variable. So at the Daily Show, there's a morning meeting with all of the writers and producers and studio producers and some of the correspondents. And that'll last for about an hour. We watch clips, we crack jokes. And in that meeting, you figure out what is the show for that day. The first 30 minutes is here's all the news, and we crack jokes on each story. The back half of the meeting is more of a, all right, now out of everything we saw, what's funny for today and what's good for. And Trevor's real good about eyeballing. Here's something that we should talk about today, because tomorrow it will be irrelevant. And here's something we should talk about for tomorrow, because that'll flow down. That's something.
It'll still be around.
There you go. So you'll have the morning meeting. They put together what the flow of the show will be. They assign writers to each segment. Writers go off and write until 1:00. The producers do a 1-over, and then we rehearse at 3:30. We rewrite till 5:30. Then we shoot the show at 6.
Wow.
Now, if you're on the show that day, then you're off with the writers until 1 or 2 o'clock, and you're in rehearsal and rehearsal. So your entire day is in the writer's wing as a correspondent. If you're not on the show, then you go to your field meeting. You start brainstorming segments for new. And the field meeting is very similar to the writer's meeting. Here's some shit. Here's some stories to consider going out on a field piece on. And let's figure out how to make those field pieces tighter, whatever. And then if you have a field piece that you already shot, you go downstairs to edit. You work with the editor and the producer to put all of that stuff together. So
maybe some VO, whatever needs to be fixed.
It's very much a fork in the road. When the morning meeting ends, as a correspondent, you have a fork in the road. If you're on the show, go over here. If you're not on the show, go here, go to a meeting, and then go to your office and find new stories. If you already shot a story, you should be in edit, working with the producers to figure out what the best way is to edit the story. If you have a story you're about to go out on, you should be working with your producers and writers to figure out the angles of attack for when you go out on the story. So that's kind of the 4-prong day for a correspondent.
There's no dicking off then.
No, absolutely not. Because it's either go think of new ideas or sit with the people and cultivate the idea you've already birthed. Those are the two lanes.
Are people picking each other up as like, man, I ain't coming up with shit today? Does that happen in the room?
No, that's kind of some SNL shit. Like that's more of a weekly sketch show vibe, I think, than what we have. Because I've heard of SNL being a very pressure cooker. You must pitch, it must be funny, or oh shit, the world. Whereas I think the thing that we have a little bit more of a luxury on from a creative standpoint, well, number one, SNL's making a 90-minute goddamn sketch show. That's already hard in itself. We have the liberty to just not do a sketch and just go, fuck it, let Trevor say it. Like, we can just...
Yeah.
Like, SNL has to create shit. We just go, nah, this idea doesn't work as a segment.
Yeah.
Send it to monologue.
Yeah. All right. Yes, you got 17 minutes in commercials. We're good.
Yo, legit.
Yep.
And then we get a guest. Now he'll just, you know what? That's not funny. Just talk to the guest a little longer. And we got a show.
I love that, right?
It's such a fucking easy field goal to kick if you want. But I think the correspondence, because the writers are always collaborating, and it's a constant musical chairs of, you might be writing a sketch this week. You might be helping the correspondent with his field piece, the beats for the field piece, or you might be on the monologue with Trevor, or you might be working on a desk segment where the correspondent goes back and forth. So no one's ever married to any one thing on any given day. And creatively, it's no different than comedy. It's high tide, low tide. There are months where I come in and I can pitch a new field piece every day, which is more than what we would ever shoot or get done. And then there are weeks where I got nothing, and I'm reading. I'm going out. I'm absorbing in the world. I'm doing the same thing I do every day: 3 newspapers, 1 magazine, and sometimes it just ain't nothing.
Yeah,
there's nothing that jumps out at me. And then there's day, because what I'm also trying to do creatively, I'm trying to, I think there's two different approaches. Vanessa DeLuca, who used to be the editor in chief of Essence Magazine, said this to me, and it's always stuck with me. She said, don't follow the conversation, create the conversation. And so I feel like for where the field pieces are concerned, that's a wonderful place to create conversation. Of course, within the actual show, you have to react to things that are happening and follow that conversation. But I think there's also opportunities within the Daily Show to do things that spring new thought and present things that you wouldn't have considered or even knew that were happening in the world. And I think that's the biggest strength of what the correspondents do, is they help create the conversation around issues. So that's always been my biggest thing.
Yeah, you're great on the show. What do we got now? 3 years on this show?
Yeah, it's been right at 3. So what? 2015, September 28th, 2015.
That's it. Just goes by like this. Just see ya. You know.
Damn, man.
Now, after you work on the Daily Show all day, do you actually go home for a bit, or you stay in the city and then go out and start working comedy?
So if you're on the show, you don't leave the building until about 7:30. If you're not on the show, you could leave around 6. Just depends on what you're working on that day. I'm usually out the door. If I'm not on the show, I'm out the door around 6. My son goes to bed at 8. So I'll go home for an hour. I'll have dinner. I'll sit with him, we'll count and do numbers. We'll try and do something. I just try to be an interactive, connected individual who's not plugged into his comedy world. And then 8 o'clock hits, and I'm out the door. And then I'm doing sets until about 10 p.m., 10 or 11. I can do sets until midnight or 1 a.m. if I'm working on something. Like I just did Jimmy Fallon, so
it was great.
Thank you, man.
I love that set.
Yeah. So for the 10 days leading up to my Fallon appearance, I did 5 sets a night in the city.
Just running that set.
Run this 5 minutes over and over, and between gigs, listen to the audio and figure out where to change and move commas and words, and just constantly making edits and tweaking. And then when I get home at 1 a.m, that's when I can do some more of the emails that I still hadn't gotten to from that. By then, the people I emailed at 9 o'clock that morning have replied, and I, replied to some of it. But that's where the next piece of settled business. And if I don't have anything mentally connected to do, I'll play PlayStation or I'll watch Pardon the Interruption from earlier that day.
Oh, man, it's a long day.
Yeah, but I'll go to bed around 2 a.m. If I'm not doing comedy, or if I even on nights where I'm not doing anything, I'm still a comic. The itch remains, but I'll do 2 sets and be home by 9. Just to let's just, it's like when a runner just does. Yeah, I just did 5 miles, no big deal. Just to stay fresh.
Just ran the track 8 times.
What's the longest you've gone in your career without performing?
It was this week, actually.
Like in days or months?
It was 4 days, which is the longest ever. And it was horrible.
How hard was it to get
It was horrible. And then the first set back, I was just kind of like, what the fuck? And I've never gone 4 days. And that has really come down to, because I'm in New York and I'm the new guy out here. So
you got to grind it.
I could have hustled up some open mics and stuff, but instead I decided to dig into some other work, which was digging up all kinds of premises, putting those on paper, getting ready for 19, trying to write a whole new thing and get better, and then editing some podcasts, booking some guests, booking some flights, getting shit out of the way that I can't stand doing, that I'll blow off. Booking flights is like one of the things I hate the most.
Oh, yeah, it's 2 hours comparing flights. And
just all that shit,
you start learning the routes and learning which airlines, to the point now where I can like I have a gig in Vancouver on a Thursday, and they're like, oh, but can you get there at this time? And I already know the red eye schedule for that night, and I know that, okay, I take this flight now. Yeah, I can get there. It lands at 10:50 a.m. and hotel, you just, I don't know, some weird matrix code just comes down. For me this year, creatively though, man, I'm trying. Oh, my longest the longest I've ever gone without performing is 14 days.
14 days.
And that's because 8 of it was a family vacation to Argentina. And like part of it was like Christmas at my mom's afterwards. And I was fucking itching, bro.
Oh, man. 4, I can imagine.
Bro, there's a bunch of expats that do a comedy night in Buenos Aires. And
You hit that?
I was so exhausted, I overslept. I emailed them and set up hey man, I'm from the States. Can I come just please? Oh my God, I'm in Argentina. What was it like to do comedy
You
in
hit the
Argentina?
streets.
Yeah.
You hit the streets looking for the stuff.
Now imagine trying to look for comedy work around a bunch of people who want you to relax.
No.
And they say you're working too hard. I'm not working too hard. I like I'll be right back. I got a gig that I just booked here in Buenos Aires.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me this year, to that point of preparation, I'm trying to perform less. I need to perform more in the city. Today is Sunday.
Yep.
Oh shit, I need to email Esty.
Oh, yeah.
I need to
get those avails in.
I need to, like, for real, make a note of that shit. I'm in a position where I want to start reviewing my sets from years ago. And I want to start, I'm also I'm trying to study the art of performance. Just the concept of, and just watch more people on mute, eye lines, smiling during the punchline or smiling during an evil premise. Like, I'll notice for me, if I smile while saying something horrible, it keeps me redemptive in the eyes of the audience. Just picking up all those figuring out what my strengths and weaknesses are outside of writing, and fixing all of that shit. And then, at the same time, harvesting every idea I've had for the past 20 years and really going through my joke book and start putting all of that stuff together and then neatly organizing it and then going out on stage week after week with a new 10-minute chunk of all of these new thoughts properly, or like on some Chris Rock printed out notebook, fucking take it on stage if I have to type shit, to really see what's there. Because I think there's something to the art of preparation and performance that I haven't paid enough attention to. And after seeing a couple of musicians that I think that I really respect really go out and crush it, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. I'm coasting too much on my own abilities, that I'm not treating myself like a piece of shit who doesn't know what he's doing and who really needs to get better. Because I
feel that same way right now. You know, people think, oh, you're on your 10th year, it must get easier. And I think it just gets harder because the bar is raised as far as what you think is good and other people's work ethic and everything. You're like, I need to get even better.
Yep.
And I look at it as like, you know, I was talking to Joe List about this recently. Okay. I want to start filming once a week, just my set, because by the time we go shoot a special, a lot of times we've never even seen what we look like on stage. No. I recently watched a 30-minute from Ice House that was on my computer from 16, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like big and goofy, like, yeah! Oh. And I immediately stripped it all the way down to like in a Chris Rock form where, you know, when he's working out, he's not Chris Rock at all.
No, it's not. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, that's my favorite Chris Rock because
he stands still. He talks at a whisper.
Yeah.
And he just performs in one spot. And all that extra performance stuff, that's the extra gravy. That's the sauce.
That's the special sauce.
Yeah, but he performs, and I don't know this. I've never had a conversation with Chris Rock, but as it was told to me, he makes everything minimal to know that the joke by itself is fire. If you can rip standing still as Chris Rock, imagine what it's going to be when he adds inflection and timing and stage stalking and all that other shit he does. Like that, I was like, all right, that's what I need to fucking really fucking start paying attention to. And that's what I'm doing.
Did you think about that as you were watching the edits of your new special coming out? Is that what got in your head? Like, oh, I could get way better. The next one's going to be, while you're watching in the edits, you're already thinking of the next one.
Yeah, I was already thinking, it's like, okay, I don't know how well I do with the room with a balcony anymore. I looked at the balcony too much, which looks weird on TV from a performative standpoint. You know, my biggest issue is eye lines. And if you watch my new special, you'll notice I look down a little bit too much because I'm looking at people that are a little too low for the sake of camera, and my eye line should have been a little higher towards the back of the room. Generally, if you look at the door in the back of the room, your eyes are in the right place for television. And so it's that balance of you're performing this in front of a live audience, but this is also for television. You're really making a TV show with a studio audience. So you have to kind of almost care a little less about connecting with the audience, or have those moments in there and then edit them out. Do that shit between jokes. Look down and, look at people.
Keep them in.
Yeah, because that's an important part of it. You can't be completely disconnected. I think that I'm happy with the material on this special. There's just some things performance-wise that I see a lot of room for improvement. So that's what I'm going to try and start focusing on.
Well, that's what I think makes people great. People that strive like, okay, I did that. Like right after I did Conan, I watched it immediately and I was like, okay, I'm going to be way better the next time.
Yeah.
I got the first one out and I got laughs and it was, good for your first one ever. To
that's
me,
all you need.
Yeah, to me, I was proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people could be like, this guy ain't fucking funny at all. I don't care about anybody except myself going, oh, I can live with that.
Yeah, that's to be expected.
I made a music record in 1999. I still put it on and I have what I call no cringe moments. And that's how I want all my art to, if I can sit with it, who cares what the comments below the YouTube footage is.
One of the best things that ever happened to me was Last Comic Standing, season 7, 2010.
You got third place.
Third place. And one of the things the network made us do was live tweet. And this was kind of the beginning of the whole live tweet era of Twitter in terms of being able to talk with the cast and interact in real time as the show airs and all of that shit. So we had to, for 1 hour, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we had to live tweet the show and interact with the viewers. Oh my God, I'm watching Last Comic. It's so funny. And I replied, thank you for watching. And make sure you vote for me. And as each comic aired, you could see the hate start to sift into the hashtag thread.
Yeah, brutal.
And there's funny ones in there, but you can't not read the bad ones to find the good. Like, there's no filter. To this day, Twitter doesn't have a filter for that. So I read some of the most horrible shit about my comedy every fucking week for 2 months.
That's heavy, man.
So for the first 2 weeks, then the third week you're like, fuck that. Yeah, fuck that guy. You're trying to decide whether or not to reply. And then by week 4, you just go, oh, this is the internet. This is what people do. There's people out there that don't like you. Okay, fine. And ever since then, I've been completely at peace with anyone that doesn't like me, and it's never bothered me, which was perfect considering that the Daily Show, depending on the segment we do, someone immediately is going to go, fuck you, you liberal pussy, and snowflake, and nigger. Like, okay, man, whatever, bro. In 2010, I got booed online. 8 straight tweets. Like, this guy tweeted me, boo, with all the O's. Like, used up all the characters in every tweet.
And they made you look at it.
And I had to look at it.
Yeah. They made you look at it. It's almost like a naked picture of your mom each week. You're like, oh.
So there's nothing I could say. There's nothing you could say to me that's gonna shake me up, man. I'll be okay.
Yeah, and I think we're smart enough to know they're just not in a good space in their life.
Oh, of course.
You
These
know,
people are sad,
to
miserable.
go sling hate online, your life is so fucked.
Oh, yeah.
Who's got that kind of time? To me, the only comment ever you would have to, and which I always say, don't comment at all. They just disappear. But the only one would be, I'm on TV. That's it. That's all you have to say. There's nothing else. I'm on TV.
Yeah, I've never replied to just
Wise.
hatred. And, you know, people will make fair rebuttals from a political opinion or perspective standpoint. I reply to that stuff. But even that's dicey because then my followers jump on that person and attack them, and it completely delegitimizes the conversation, and then it's just framed as me sicking my people on you or something, and that's never what the case was.
Where'd you shoot the special? Chicago, right?
Chicago at the Vic Theater.
Oh, that's a great theater.
The Vic Theater, I like it. Hannibal shot there. Pete Holmes shot there. You know, I talk about enough race issues that I felt like it was important that I also talk about some of the. I talk about enough race issues that I felt like it was important to talk about race in a city where race is still an issue.
Well, it's the homicide capital, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about capital, but I know there's definitely a fair amount of shootings.
Yeah.
Shootings versus murder. It's fucked up. We live in a country where we have to split the hairs. Like, they're like, wait a minute. It's just a lot of people get shot here.
Yeah.
The most die over here, and that's it. So, you know, I did my first special in Atlanta for a similar reason. I just feel like if you're talking about race and issues that are prevalent to black people and the black community, then you should tell those jokes in a place where people are still dealing with those issues. Otherwise, you're just a pussy in Montana talking about police reform, and you know, and that's not what I want to see either, man. So that's it, man.
So it's out this week, right?
Yeah,
Comedy Central.
No One Loves You. It's at 11 o'clock Eastern, and then I don't know, just bootleg it or something if you can't find it.
Yeah, make some memes and chop it up and put the subtitles on and get this shit to go viral. Roy Wood Jr. is one of the great comedians working right now, and I've watched him over the last 7 years, especially when he pulled a hamstring running down to first base. The first hit he got of the game, pulled a hammy.
Pulled it, and then you bitches wouldn't let me go home, said we'd be down a man. Would you mind moving to catcher?
Catcher, yeah. Well, we didn't want to be disqualified because I was like, not your guys. And oh, by the way, congrats, paid regular now at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, bring it full circle. You goddamn right, man.
Yeah. I thought you were a paid regular the whole time.
Man.
I said that
Shout
like
out to
we
Adam.
played softball together.
Nah, I just knew everybody over there. I had no problem getting on stage time if it was a produced show, but it was just to get officially passed. It was like, nah, go out there and get in line. I'm like, all right, man, I gotta go to Neil Brennan's room. I got shit to do.
I love you, man. And it's great to see you every night. And I loved your found 5 minutes. I know how you had to chop that down because I was waiting for the armoire.
Couldn't do it.
I was like, damn it. But
Couldn't
you know
do
what? You still got that whole bit you can do somewhere out there. And it's going to be a monster even more. You just keep digging on that.
Man.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you. And watch him on The Daily Show. Follow him on Instagram, Roy Wood Jr.
Yeah, just @ sign in front or .com on the backside. That's
There
all.
you go. And then check out his other stuff. You got records on iTunes.
Yeah, Father Figures, the first album, and then before that, Things I Think was my debut comedy album, self-produced. Thank you very much. 2014.
I can't thank you enough for doing the show.
Man, thank you,
I don't
man.
have a lot of comedians on, so when I do, it's definitely someone that I want to talk to about their process.
If anyone asks me to come talk about anything if you think I'm interesting, fuck it. Let's go on that adventure.
It's great. It's
All right,
great.
man.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in,
bro.
everybody. Don't forget to leave a review and subscribe and check out Roy Wood Jr.'s brand new special tonight, or not tonight, but Friday night. And thank you guys. See you later.